What is up, man? That intro killed me, though. I had to join. I think that
Those
that
gentlemen did do
that, that encapsulates everything great about like the show, where they just had stuff flying onto the screen and then it would disappear, like in that intro. But I had to have like Wes make one of our own. But anyway, I'm Uncle Bill. I'm joined by Rambo, and now currently just came in the man.
Hey,
Oh, I like the
what's up,
background.
guys? Yeah, I don't
How
know
you
how
doing,
good
man?
it's working. Like, I need a green screen.
That's not a green screen.
No, I don't have one. I
It's
wish I did.
like, yeah,
How's it look?
it looks okay. Like you made your like partially of your head has disappeared, but other than that, it's okay.
the logo is swallowing you whole. It's Files episode on its own.
Yeah.
If you take a step forward, it's like the Simpsons Homer that goes into the bushes.
The bush and
Disappears.
back out. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But man, this has been a long time in the making, though, to do this episode because I mean, we've talked about doing an X Files episode for probably over a year, and just have never, honest to God, the only reason we haven't done it is we've never been able to get CK to watch any of the damn episodes. So you were doing a stream, Matt, and you were talking about the X Files, and I was just like, we got to do something. Like he's never going to watch these shows, so I figure we'll just do it on our own. We'll just do it live, damn it. You know what I mean? Oh God, he's gone. He's gone completely.
It's like disappearing on me.
Yeah. Don't hold up the
Just
Blu-ray
don't
so
have
it'll
any-
completely disappear.
Just don't pull any weird hot tub babies like Jamie Lee. Those weird. Did you hear about that?
Hot tub?
Yeah.
No. What was it?
Jamie Lee Curtis got in a controversy because she was showing her home and she had a weird picture like here of a little kid naked in a tub, like crawled in, like someone put a kid in there naked, and it was on Instagram, and people gave her so much crap, and then she's like, "Oh, I'll take it down," and she's like trying to explain like some artiste. Someone was telling me about it. I didn't know what people were talking about. I'm like, Jamie Lee's, she crazy.
Wow, man.
I knew from the
was,
start. So.
I did not expect Jamie Lee Curtis to have like naked children hanging around her home. I just
tubs crawled in like an X-Files episode.
Yeah, man. I just watched Blue Steel with her like yesterday. It's a crazy ass movie, man. Like I'd forgotten like how crazy Ron Silver was in that movie, but
Yeah.
anyway, that has nothing to do with X Files. So, but no, okay. So the reason that we're all kind of gathered here is because we all have a common love for this show, and there was a time period there where I probably watched like the different seasons over and over again on like a loop almost for over a year, maybe 2 years. Like almost every day I would watch at least like one episode. So I don't know what the hell is wrong with me, but that's just kind of like what happened. The show came out in 93. So I don't know if you guys caught it on its first, like when it first came out. Did either one of you like start watching it when it first came out?
Yeah, I did. My aunt actually was a huge fan, and she's actually the one that got me into it. And I was just hooked ever since I saw the first like few episodes. So, yeah.
Yeah, man.
For me, it was different because we didn't have that channel on the back of the day on the farm. We only had like 4 channels: ABC, CBS, another form of CBS for some reason, and PBS. So we never had Fox. But my aunt would send, and this is like 93, I would be, I don't know, 10, 11 years old. But it's probably like 94, 95. She had like these VHS tapes. She would send us of The Simpsons and stuff that was on Fox. And one of them was X-Files. I remember the first episode I saw was the Darkness Falls episode in season 1 with all the little bugs that put people into cocoons.
Oh, yeah.
And being a big fan of horror and being a big fan of just the whole gist of the plot and the way the show operated, I instantly fell in love since. And since I didn't have the channel, I actually got the VHS tapes, sadly I don't have anymore, where they released like 2 episodes per tape. And it'd be like a little interview, and then you would get like a special card. So I followed the show initially with the first season from those VHS tapes. So that was probably mid to late 90s when those VHS tapes were coming out.
Yeah. These.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks so
So-
primitive now. Like it's
Isn't
crazy.
isn't it crazy though, man? Like I've had these, I don't know, since God, we're talking about 25 years or something now, probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is the original way that you actually got home video of the X Files was these VH. And I don't know why they did bundles like this. There's, like you said, there's 2 episodes on each disc. There's only 3 like VHS tapes. But these were all the rage like back in the day. Like I had a ton of these. And then and I got the DVD sets, which I still have. That's as far as I went with it. Like I never got the. I'm assuming it's out on Blu-ray. I never got like the
Yeah,
Blu-rays
this
or
is-
anything like that. Yeah.
This
Mhm.
is the Blu-ray set, has up to 11, sadly, because the last 2 seasons can eat my ass.
Yeah.
Fuck the revival. It can suck my dick.
Oh,
But
we got to get into
the
that.
first 9, yeah. But yeah, Blu-rays got the special features and stuff. And yeah, I'm not sure about how they package them. I guess it's kind of a way they did where they like put it on. It's like this, but then they put it on top, so you have to pull the stuff out.
Yeah.
It doesn't just flip like it should. I guess it kind of does, but I mean, I guess I've seen worse, but I've seen better.
And that's region 2, I'm guessing.
No, it played fine on my Redwood Blu-ray,
Oh, okay. So it's
so I
region
guess
free.
it's region free.
Cool.
So
Yeah, I don't know.
The,
Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's
There's
the.
the US one. This is season 1, by the way. But yeah, it's a ton of cases. So
I don't know why I never upgraded to Blu-ray on these, but I just never went past the DVDs. There's like, I think because I bought like every one of those sets, I was just like, I'm not buying every one of them fucking sets in Blu-ray.
yeah,
So
I was the same way. I have all of them on DVD, or at least at that point it was only up to season 9. But my buddy is a huge fan of it too, and like he's like, dude, you got to get the Blu-ray set. And I'm like, is it really that good? I watched it, and Rambo, I mean, the show looks amazing. I didn't know it looked that good until I saw it in HD. It looks immaculate. It's great.
Well, the first, I think, is it 5 seasons of the X-Files was shot in Vancouver.
Right.
And I think after that, they shot everything in LA.
Right.
So the first 5 seasons have a real interesting look that's completely different than like anything that comes after. And that's kind of probably my favorite look because it's just, there's something about it. Like, and I'd say it probably does look really good in Blu-ray with that, converted like that too. Because it's
definitely a bit darker, it's definitely gloomier.
Oh yeah.
And a lot of those early seasons they shoot in the woods for that reason, because of the locale that they had with that.
Yeah, all the light like shining through those huge pine trees, and like it has a very like ethereal look to it. The atmosphere is really, really dark, and I love that. But yeah, you don't get that in the other seasons, sadly.
Yeah. So I mean, 93 I would have been when the show started, I would have been 13. So I remember like watching it, like catching it like every now and then, but I didn't really like get into the X-Files hardcore until like my early 20s, I think. And then that's when like I started buying like all kinds of I was showing Rebel this too. I started buying like crap like this. Like I got into it to the point where I was buying like, these are like companion books and stuff that went along with the series.
Wow.
This is like the first, it's like a comprehensive guide through the first 5 years of the X-Files. So yeah, this is getting stuff like that. And then I also had these, which there's 2 different versions of these. I don't know if you guys remember these or not, but
I do.
These are
those,
these are like the original ones that came out. And this is Fear on this one, but I've got like a ton of them over here. And then these are later on, and the artwork changes. You can see it's a little bit more like avant-garde or whatever you want to say, but like, yeah. So, yeah, I got into it pretty hardcore there for a while, needless to say. But it was like, I don't think people realize how much of like a huge phenomenon that it was at that time. Like, I think that The Simpsons kind of introduced me to Fox, that it was even a channel, but the X-Files was the thing that really like carried that whole channel for like years and years and years. It was really like the main thing that I tuned in on Fox for at that time too.
Yeah, people really don't know like how much of a success it was. I actually looked it up, and it said that in 2002, when the show ended in season 9, altogether like the accumulated revenue was $1 billion. So this is $1 billion franchise. They never lost money, even with the second movie and the later seasons. It still made money. So like it's a profitable IP. Like, I mean, unfortunately, Disney has it now, but
Oh man, I didn't know that. Does Disney? Yeah.
Yeah, because they bought Fox. So
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so
Like,
sad.
like you were saying, yeah, I mean, people don't realize like Fox at the time was mainly known for teen shows like Melrose Place and 90210, or raunchy, trying to be raunchy times like Married with Children. But they also had a habit where they were introduced so many shows, and very few of them went beyond a second season. Like you had your In Living Colors and your Martins and stuff. But like I looked it up, and there were shows that you would never hear of. Like that year in '93, there was a George Carlin sitcom that didn't last that long. There was a sitcom with Don Rickles and Richard Lewis,
God.
lasted like 11 episodes. And then like the big show that Fox thought was going to be big at the time, and this would follow after, was The Adventures of Bristol County Jr.
Oh
with Bruce
yeah,
Campbell.
the Bruce Campbell show.
forgot about that.
I did too, but I remember watching it when it originally came out for a minute and then just stopping. Yeah.
Yeah, Fox thought that would be the big show, and they thought, oh, Bruce Campbell's going to be a big TV star, and then it bombed. And X-Files came out afterward. It wasn't doing the best in the ratings because people were not wanting to watch Bristol County. And then when that went away, it got even better ratings. So by the time the season ended, as you had the highest ratings, and because of all the positive reviews, it would get a second season. And then thankfully they did that. Word of mouth spread, and it became more successful because of that.
Well, I was looking
Definitely
at
word of mouth helped.
I was looking at too, like you can go online and look at like the breakdown of like how many people watch the episodes. And if you look at like season 1, it's a pretty steady progression all the way till the end. And when you get to the end, there's like a really huge amount of people that watched the Erlenmeyer Flask, which was the last episode of season 1. And I think and I'm going to talk about that later too when we talk about the main episodes. But I think that episode itself kind of like sold like the mythology part, and that's really what got people kind of like hooked on the show. And that's a big one for me in terms of like what made that show click, I think, with people. And the other big part of it is that they did standalone episodes a lot. One-off, they call them like monster ones, like one-off monsters, where you could have anything from the Loch Ness Monster to the Jersey Devil to whatever, and like those were some of my favorites. I love the mythology, but probably my favorite episodes are the one-offs like that too.
Yeah. I remember Chris Carter saying that like he had to pitch the show twice, and selling him on like the idea that it was supposed to be like a modern day Kolchak the Night Stalker show.
Yeah.
So that was a great idea. I mean, he said early on he knew that like the mythology couldn't sustain itself forever and they had to go into other territories, but his main thing was he wanted it to be scary.
And it definitely was, like in parts too.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it has a vibe to the show that's completely unique from anything else ever, really.
Very true.
That's ever been on. But definitely for that time period, like there was absolutely nothing like this at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's definitely the start also of the paranoia culture. I mean, just before you had like JFK, the movie, come out with Oliver Stone a year or two ago, and like Conspiracy of the Government and Don't Trust the Government. That was a big factor where people could relate to, or they agree with it. And also those around the time like Fox and all those are having these autopsy alien tapes being shown on Fox, and the Roswell Chronicle, or this is what Roswell didn't want you to see, and all this shit. And
yeah, that's right. Area 51 and all that stuff got really big.
Yeah, the conversations about S4, the Bob Lazar stuff, like all that stuff was like really hot at the time. I guess America just kind of had UFO fever, Like I remember also Carter saying that like the early ideas for the whole lore of aliens in general came from the fact that like I think it's like 30 to 40% of Americans believe in UFOs. And what was the number? About 50% like have all these crazy like stories of either sightings or abductions. And I think it was like there were 3.7 like confirmed abduction cases, or at least like cases that were reported like to police stations and stuff like that. So yeah, it was UFO fever in the early 90s and late 80s for sure. So it came at the right time, the perfect time.
Yeah, it just clicked. It kind of like tapped into whatever consciousness that was going on around that time period. And they couldn't have picked any two better people to play those parts than Duchovny and Gillian Anderson. Like, well, not only that, honestly, I mean, people give them a lot of credit, and it's, you know, well deserved. But really, like the supporting cast of that show is probably like among some of the best supporting cast of any TV show ever. You know, if you go in, you look at Mitch Pileggi, and you look at William B. Davis, and like all the people that were like just the surrounding kind of the parts that actually kind of got more popular in some ways than the main, the Lone Gunman. I mean, those guys actually had their own spinoff show, which is a whole other fucking bunch of nonsense. Like, but I mean, they were as popular as anybody on that show.
You guys remember like the first episode of that show?
I watched it. I can't remember it. I couldn't tell you.
It was like 9/11, close to that.
Exactly. So that show like started, I think, in March, and then of course, you know, the September 11th thing happens. But that's 6 months later. So in the first episode, Vince Gilligan, who wrote that and was also the creator of that show, like he predicted 9/11 essentially. Like they literally have a plane flying at the Twin Towers, and like the lone gunmen figure out a way to like subvert it or something.
So yeah, really that show probably couldn't be on after that. Then I'm assuming, right? Yeah. It's like no. And somebody mentioned this too, which I was thinking about when you were talking about all the UFO stuff. And Alpha Romero says that now there's actual UFOs on this, and nobody gives a shit.
Right?
I mean, honestly, that's true. Like the government has basically said that UFOs exist, and like not a single person is really like really cares anymore.
That was what 2020. I think they like confirmed it. Like, yeah, these things are here. They fly around, but we don't know what they are. But we're investigating it. So there you go. And nobody cared because like the pandemic's running wild. So
yeah, in some ways, like the X-Files kind of predated that. Where there was a couple of episodes where the government would orchestrate like some sort of UFO hoax to kind of take the people's attention away from like something else that was going on. And you kind of wonder, like, is that what they're doing? Like, are they just like, hey, UFOs are real. Don't pay any attention to this other shit like that's going on over here. Like, but that was a part of it too, was like the government misdirection angle that was in a lot of the episodes of it as well. Mm-hmm. There's some classic episodes. I can't think of the name of the one I'm trying to right now where like that's what they did though, was that they were like, it's about UFOs when it's really about something else that they're trying to cover up, you know. But we should probably actually talk about like the show itself in terms of like, I don't know how you guys wanted to go about it, but what I did was like, I just picked a couple of episodes from the first couple of seasons that I wanted to talk about. That was like some of my favorites. Okay. And you know, some of them are standalones and some of them are part of the mythology, but like in some way or another, they're all like, I think that they represent some sort of important kind of like either milestone for the show or something that I really like latched onto watching it. I know you guys probably got some of those too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So season 1, first of all, before we start, how would you rank season 1? Scale of 1 to 10, like where would you put it in terms of like the whole show?
At least for me, at least a 7. Because with the first season, it's getting its legs ready, and I like the introduction of the characters, and there's some really top-notch episodes. But then there's some pretty big stinkers. Like I can already tell you the worst episode to me.
Rolling.
Yeah.
For me, it's one called Space. With alien space and those horrible effects. here for
Yeah.
93.
Yeah, it's
And
an
then like
alien
the guy
entity.
said,
Terrible.
you know, his orgasm face and like an alien space ghost because of the news was the face on Mars or something. So that
Yeah, that was the big
Mhm.
story at that time. Yeah, I forgot about
Yeah.
that story, but yeah.
I mean, but with some of the episodes, I gotta give it a bit of higher 7 or 8 because of. I mean, we'll get to some of these, but the Squeeze Tomb stuff, Ice being one of the best episodes of the whole show.
Yeah.
Some other ones, there's some pretty strong ones, and for even the pilot, I mean, there's some pilots that are pretty cringeworthy. I thought the pilot was effective enough in what it set out to do to introduce these two actors, and even to have people like Jerry Hardin, who's Deep Throat. He's only in the first season. A substantial character.
And
And
that's
then I'm
another
like,
thing. I was just going to say, man, that's another thing too, though. I don't think that show would be as popular as it was if he wasn't in the show and it ended the way that it did. Like, I think that's another part that, like, of that last episode where it was like people were blown away by that idea, like to follow that character and like that it was based on a real character and then like what happens at the end and everything too. So yeah, I think he was a huge part of that success of that show, just being in it for one season. Even.
And for those who are, if you ever see the show, for those who don't know and you think you recognize that guy, he's at the beginning of Big Trouble in Little China.
That's right.
He's the guy talking to Victor Wand at the beginning, saying that Jack Burns full of shit. But yeah, I mean, before you get into the season, do you remember the first episode you saw?
Yep.
Like you said, you remember. Okay, cool.
I don't remember why I remember this particular episode or like, you know, how I remember it now, but the very first one that I remember watching was Ice. That was the first one that
a good introduction.
Yeah. And even at that point in time, it wasn't lost on me like how much like The Thing it was. Like I had seen both movies at that time.
Chris Carter said that's what inspired it. Like they wrote it literally because it was supposed to be like his version of The Thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and it totally is. Like you can see it all over. Like even some of the shots are kind of like, you know, the same as some of the shots in The Thing. But that was my introduction to it. And going back and like watching, I don't think I caught that. Maybe I did catch it on its first run, but I just know that was the first episode that I saw. What about y'all?
I think for me, it might have been Fallen Angel, maybe.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I have the most fond memories of. And that's actually a solid episode. It's a mythology one. It's a crashed UFO, but then there's like an entity running around and it's invisible. And it just wreaks havoc. But it's it also introduces a character that's reoccurring later in like season 4, Max Finnick. And Rambo, I'm sure you know who that is.
Oh yeah, he's got the cap, and there's the
nightcap.
I think he does come back in another episode, I believe later on
in season 4.
And talk about what happens to Deep Throat. You look what happens to him.
I
think he gets. Yeah, you never know who's going to survive and not. That's kind of one of the things that kept people interested. Because you got to keep people interested to see every week. And you don't want to miss a week because either it'd be the scary show that people are talking about. I mean, imagine when we get to Home many, many years later and all the controversy that had.
Oh, boy.
Or will they, won't they kiss, all that other stuff. But go ahead, man. What were you
I was just going to say, I'm amazed that nobody has like gotten sued for like wrong turn being an exact like rip off of Home because it totally is. Like, I've never understood that, but yeah. Anyway, so it's just like every time I think about Home, it always pisses me off that basically like whoever like somebody just saw that episode, we're like, we're going to make a movie about this. We're going to change it up enough to where we can't get sued. Like, and that was wrong turn.
Yeah.
Oh. But anyway, I was just thinking like some of the episodes, and we've already mentioned some of the episodes, but season 1, if I was to rate it, I'd give it a hard 6, just because I think it was like they didn't really know what the hell they were doing yet.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like everything was kind of like they're filling out what they want to do with the show. Like, so everything's kind of awkward, and there's a little bit of production values not there, especially in the first, couple episodes. But like as it goes on, you can see it like figuring itself out, like more and more and more about what they want to do. And I think by the end, they got a pretty good idea like what they wanted the show to be, in terms of the mythology part of it, at least for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that I would give it a 6, just because like I think that as the seasons go along, they get better and better. The time that I was really watching it was like from probably season 3 on, like in terms of like hardcore, like really like into it at that point too. And I think some of those other seasons, like season 5 or some of my favorites. Anyway, I won't say best ones. I'll just say my favorites. But season 1, okay, so talk about like what you guys remember. Rambo, you already brought this one up about Squeeze and Tooms, which were oddly enough, and they don't do this a lot in shows, but Squeeze and Tooms were supposed to be, I'm assuming, like a one-off, but they're both in the same season. Mm-hmm. So they're like the same story, but it's just like carried on in season 1.
Yeah, I would have to assume it was so popular, like they went, oh well, I don't know how early they shoot a show, like an episode. I know they shoot pretty quick, but I do wonder if that episode was released and they saw a bit of buzz and they did a sequel, or they just had that plan from the start.
That's what it was. Like it what you just said, like it got a lot of buzz, and they actually weren't like done with the entire season. And Carter said like toward the end, like they saw how popular the character was. They're like, well, let's bring him back. Let's do something else with it. So that's how it came about.
So for those people though that don't know, Tooms is Doug Hutchinson. So Doug Hutchinson is the guy probably that you would remember from The Green Mile, I would say, or from the scandal where he like married a 16-year-old. What was her name? And
Courtney Stodden.
Yeah. That's a great image from that episode. Yep.
That's very cool.
But the episode itself there's a really weird connection to Black Christmas on here. But I'll get into it in a minute. But the episode itself is about this weird kind of like shape-shifting guy. He doesn't really shape-shift, but he can like stretch himself like out to fit into tight places. Mm-hmm. Hence the Squeeze
evil
thing.
Version of Mr. Fantastic.
Exactly. That's kind of like exactly what it is. Right.
See what's crazy
combined with the creeper from Jeepers Creepers. Only he eats livers, but he also has to hibernate for like every 30 years.
30 years, yeah. So it's like, and that's his thing. He's like, I don't remember how old they said he was. He's like
105, I think.
Some crazy amount old, yeah. But he looks like he's 30 because he keeps regenerating by hibernating and eating all these people's livers and whatnot and all this stuff. And it's great because it's just so creepy. Like Doug Hutchinson's already creepy anyway. And like just naturally, like on his own.
Carter said that too.
That's why he always plays like some sort of weirdo, like kind of creep character anyway. But so there was that, and then there was the fact of like the whole idea of this guy that could get in anywhere. So at the beginning of the episode, he sneaks into this building like by going up to the ventilation system and then murders a guy, and you can't figure out, that's the whole plot. Like you can't figure out like how he killed him. So Mulder and Scully are brought in to kind of like try to solve the case, and that's when they start figuring out that he's Mr. Fantastic, basically. Yeah. I love. Go ahead, man.
No, I was just going to say the thing is that was such important because at that time people thought it's just going to be about aliens because the first 2 episodes were about aliens, and this showed that no, if it was just about aliens, it would not last that long because it'd be a very limited scope. This shows you could do anything. You could create any type of monster, any type of creature, and you can push like someone. You can push. I mean, it wasn't violent like gory, but it was violent in intention. You could push that with TV shows that wasn't as adamant then. Like maybe nowadays, like people watch maybe a CSI episode or something, they see all the dead bodies and stuff. Maybe it's like typical now, but back then it wasn't that typical. And then like someone mentioned Millennium, like that pushed even further, which is how creepy, especially the first season is particular, how violent and creepy, how far you can go with the show. And you mentioned Home and other episodes, and Squeeze was his first introduction to that. And I agree with Doug Hutchinson. I mean, he, with the eyes, is like a male version of Meg Foster with his eyes, just the feed of your soul.
Yeah.
And it was kind of also one of those episodes that I won't say it leaves on a cliffhanger, but that's why there was a sequel, because there was always the potential that he could always come back. And maybe not specific to this, but a lot of episodes where not everything wraps up in a tiny bow. That there are sometimes questions unanswered, or they didn't get the bad guy, but he disappeared. Will he come back? Will he not come back? And so it kept the mystery of, you don't know how it's going to end. You're pretty sure the two leads ain't going to die, but you don't know quite how it's going to end. I think that kept people interested coming back each week with these type of episodes.
It really does set the stage too for like the dynamic between Mulder and Scully, which is she's constantly like trying to disprove anything supernatural, and he's basically constantly trying to prove that it is supernatural. So it's like she's off doing tests and shit, and like he's, you know, off talking to whoever, like psychics or whatnot. That's kind of like the way that the show always stayed too. I mean, up until maybe like some of the later seasons when it got, you know, a little bit, it got a little fucking goofy towards the end. But yeah, that was the dynamic that worked. Like she was the scientific one, the logical one. He was the spooky one, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, she was almost overqualified because she has like her undergrad in like chemistry or no physics, and then like she's like a doctor as well, and then he's got like a degree in psychology, so it's like almost like the perfect pair to like investigate these scenarios, even though like I think the FBI, the section chief or whatever, like pairs them together, but only so that like she can debunk his work. Like you said, she's coming from like a hard science skeptic perspective, while he's just willing to like believe pretty much almost anything.
Yeah. Let's see. I would
also one.
Oh, go ahead, man.
Oh, I was just going to mention one inspiration that was very heavy on this. People might forget. Only a year or two before, he had Silence of the Lambs with the FBI.
Oh yeah.
I guarantee you, Jodie Foster was inspiration, for
he did say that
the way that character.
Yeah. Matt, you actually mentioned something in your stream the other day when you said like them not getting together or something. And I remember Carter having a conversation with like the execs or something, saying like they shouldn't get together because look what happened with Moonlighting. And that's what you said in your stream. And that ended up happening, unfortunately. Like he wanted it to stay platonic, but the studio's like, no, they gotta get together. We gotta push for that.
Anytime you do that, it just automatically kills the show.
Yeah.
Like once you let them like get together, like if there's two leads and there's like sexual tension there, the minute you put them together and like have them be a couple, it just like kills the whole show. That's happened like time and time again. A couple comments here though. Saturn Video says Eugene Toombs is super creepy. Yes, indeed. Toombs is a classic episode. Squeeze is solid. Wes wants everybody to go tongue bathe in the like button. So you can do that if you'd like. Oh, here you go. Did you review the episode of Space?
One of the worst episodes. Very boring.
No, we didn't. We probably won't touch on that one other than to say that it was pretty horrible. Yeah.
Oh, Jackson Jack, you asked, did they do a time travel episode? They did actually. It's called Synchrony, and I believe it's season 3. So yeah.
Oh, they also did the one with the triangle. Chris Carter directed, where Mulder kind of goes back to that ship with.
Yeah.
Chris Carter, he's not the best director. He's got to leave it for the other guys, please.
Yeah, he had a lot of talented writers around him, like at the time. That was really what helped the show as well. I mean, I think he's got some good writing skill. I'm not going to say he's completely, a bad writer or anything, but like, I think a lot of the people that were around him were really, really talented, and if not more talented than he was. And they really helped make the show what it was.
I think so too. He strikes me as like an idea guy that really couldn't like execute a lot of the stuff, but he had like a lot of the really good ideas, and just once he let other people kind of like do it, that that was what really took
I
off.
agree. I'm just mad at him for what he turned it into. It was such fucking dog shit with
You
the
mean in like
revival
season
and
11 and
retconning.
You didn't like
Retconning
that?
the past 5 years.
That was
5 years. Past 5 years of mythology didn't happen.
he
Mulder
came
don't
back
believe
and
in
apologized
aliens.
for that too.
He did. He did. I
Yeah,
remember that.
He was like, "Oh, I'm sorry to the fans," but like, dude, it's too late.
You
There
only
was
made a
supposed to
movie
be a
where he was
sequel,
in a
so.
spaceship. He was in a spaceship seeing aliens, but now he don't believe in aliens. So I better stop because I go on a rant for 10 minutes, but I hate those revival 10, 11. It killed, like, people were interested, and I think that can, like, obviously we're interested, we're fans of the show, but when you make crap like that, it does hurt a legacy because I think get out, don't get dragged out the stage, walk off the stage.
Yeah.
And those seasons so shitty, you burn them and you fucking drag out the corpses.
You don't like any of the I'll agree with you on the mythology episode.
A handful of the standalone.
Okay, I was gonna say some of those,
but just I know we're jumping ahead, but I just Cancer Man is her baby daddy.
Yep.
Like,
oh, you just spoiled it. No.
Yeah. I don't think anybody needs to see that shit anyway.
So
I remember being so excited, man, when that started.
Me too.
And like I was so hyped up about it. And then watching it, and then a couple episodes in, I'm just like, there is something really wrong. Like there's something bad wrong with what's going on. And I don't think people even connect those seasons to the show anymore. Like I think when people like think about they're thinking about the original, like, seasons. They're not thinking about the revival shit. Like it's just kind of a footnote to anything that happened.
Would you guys want to see like a conclusion season?
I know. It's just like with this new fucking Scream shit. Like the new Scream movie. Like I don't want to see any of this stuff. They keep like putting it out, but like I don't want to see Scream 6 or Halloween fucking 12 or
You don't want to see Ghostface with a shotgun ready for Robocop to come find him when he brings a shotgun.
I'm just done with franchises. Like I wish they just any kind of franchise, including the X-Files, motherfuckers need to stop. Like just stop putting out new revivals or reboots or anything. Just there's enough like original ideas now, or there seem to have been in the past year anyway, that you don't have to make all this franchise bullshit like again. You really don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think part of the problem with the revival too is that Carter didn't have any of like the original writers from the show except one. He had one guy, and I think like Vince Gilligan, who went on to do like Breaking Bad, was one of the best writers on the show. Had some amazing episodes. He was busy with I think it was the spinoff Better Call Saul or whatever.
Yeah,
so he couldn't come back, and then like Frank Spotnitz had moved on to other stuff. I think Glenn Morgan and James Wong did like 1 or 2 episodes, but they weren't in it as much. So, and it was just a whole like crew of new writers, and they didn't do anything worth talking about really. There were a few good ones, but like it was mostly just a shell of its former self. The show.
I mean, the writers are really what made that show, and so like once you don't have that, like you really don't have anything at that point. All right, so you guys got one though to pull out for season 1. I mean, one that stands out. Like to you.
Well, I mean, we already touched on Ice. That's one of my favorites for sure. Like we already mentioned, like it's definitely an homage to the thing. It was direct inspiration. But just that cast, just everybody in that episode, all the supporting characters were really good. I think that guy's the one main guy who's like the pilot or whatever is James. Is it James Corber? I think that's his real name. I'm a big fan of him because I love that movie that he was in a couple years prior, which was what's that name? The First Power. Like he's like the killer in The First Power.
Yes.
Oh yeah, Jeff Kober. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And then
See you around, buddy boy. See you around,
yes,
buddy boy.
yes, I love that movie. So yeah, there were just a great like supporting cast, and then like the plot itself, like shooting it all in one location, the claustrophobia, the paranoia, all the great themes, and then it had a little bit of atmosphere too. All the best themes of the thing were pretty much encapsulated in that one episode.
Wasn't that the plot too? Is like the parasite or whatever actually like whoever it was made a host increased their paranoia and like fear and things
Fear and
like that.
Their aggression.
Yeah, aggression
Mhm.
until they got to the point where they would like try to kill people and stuff like
Yeah.
which is a great takeoff on the thing. You know what I mean? Like they just took the basic the basic plot of the thing and kind of moved it to where it was now. It was like
It even starts
Yeah.
in the dog. Like
yeah,
it's in the dog, and then it jumps out of the dog and into somebody, and then like they don't know who it is. So yeah, it's really good.
It was
I
also
bet.
another good establishment of the two main leads, because that's like the first time they really have to be antagonistic and pulling guns on each other. And it's like we don't know each other too well. And I mean, I think the best way that was done is many years later, an episode called Pusher.
Oh, I
yeah.
love that
Trying to
episode.
push to shoot.
The
Yeah.
fucking part the part where he's like pulling out in the car and he's like cerulean blue. Cerulean blue is a
Yeah,
color, and the FBI agent just like drives out in traffic. Yeah, that's an amazing episode.
that one also got a part 2 as well in season 5.
It did.
Yeah,
Yeah, Pusher's one of my favorite. I'd probably be in my top 5, actually, of any
Yeah.
of the episodes.
Yeah. for sure.
So let's see what else. What do you got, Matt?
Well, real quickly, you were talking about Squeeze. I also want to mention Tombs. I love the bit with the escalator, because I never really thought of an escalator in that way. But how the killer dies, I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I never knew what was under an escalator. Okay, now I know. Be a little bit iffy about that when I step on them.
Yeah, Carter
I'll
said he was
go ahead.
naked on set the whole time. Doug Hutchinson.
Oh my god, I could see him doing that, and not having a problem with it either. Yeah.
Yeah.
The episode I'll mention is the very first one I saw that introduced me. It was one called Darkness Falls, which it really did a good job utilizing the Vancouver woods, where they were wet
Definitely.
and damp. And the premise of the episode is these loggers have disappeared, so they have to figure out what happened. And apparently there was illegal logging of some trees that weren't supposed to be cut down. It released this type of insect, and it would be afraid of the light, but if it was dark, it would swarm you and possibly put you in a cocoon and drain you of your fluids. I thought that was kind of a cool idea. And for the effects they had at the time, they did the best they could. I like the practical cocoon work or the dried husks of bodies.
Yeah.
And even like by the finale, when like they're being attacked, I'm like, are they going to die? Like, I didn't know the show. I didn't know if it was like a one-off or what. I didn't know when I first saw. I didn't know if it was a Twilight Zone thing where it was just separate stories, or if it was an ongoing show. So I'm like, are they dead or are they not? But then, of course, they didn't. I don't know, just something about the premise and try to put yourself in that situation. What would you do if you try to run off? Would you be able to make it? You know, the way they film the environment. No, not the Tooth Fairy movie.
I think he's kidding.
I remember that movie, but
No,
I like this episode more.
I love that episode too. Now that you've mentioned it, yeah, it had like you said, the atmosphere of that episode was great. Yeah, the way that it was shot. This is a question though that I'd never really thought about, but because I've always just thought about this one episode. But other than Home, what do you think is the most fucked up episode of the X-Files?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Jesus, dude. Fucked up, like. Okay, I know. I mean, it's in season 2 as well. I guess it depends on what you consider fucked up, but it's also one of my favorite like episodes of the entire series. But
The Host?
no, I love The Host. That was also on my list too. But
Our
Irresistible.
Town?
No.
Oh yeah,
yes.
the fingernails.
Yeah, with the
hair.
guy like he's digging up
Yeah.
corpses and shit and like
Mhm.
clipping their fingernails and hair and
That's a good one.
there's a weird kind of like the thing about that episode that kind of kills it for me is there's a weird thing where he can kind of shapeshift his face or something like that towards the end, but not really. But like, and there was no need for that, but they put it like
there's a backstory on that. So Carter says that like Fox turned down the idea of him being a pet. I was going to say a pedophile.
That's a hard sell.
Yeah. A necrophiliac. So yeah, the idea of him having sex with corpses was not going to fly on network television at all. And Carter's like, oh no, but that's part of the aspect. So he wanted to keep the whole theme of it. So he made the character a death fetishist. So he's obsessed with dead bodies and like clipping nails and keeping hair from corpses and stuff like that. But the idea of him shape-shifting or being like looking like a demon came from Jeffrey Dahmer victims that survived.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah,
they said that like once they got drugged up and they were like under his spell or whatever, they physically saw him change into a demon. And obviously it was hallucinations, but that's the basis for the idea. And he just wanted to incorporate that because he thought it would add an extra creep element. But it probably wouldn't have been in there if he had made the character an actual necrophiliac.
It kind of does add a creepy element to it, but it's never explained.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so I mean, I guess that's okay. Because it's okay to like leave things open ended, but it's just so odd because it only happens, I think, maybe one time. Like when Scully is getting cornered and like he goes in and she sees his face. That's the only time I remember it happening in the whole episode. So
I think it happens at the beginning as well.
Oh, okay.
Like once.
There is a sequel episode. I don't know which season it is. It's the same character.
Season 7.
I forget what happened in the episode because I didn't think it was as good as this one. So I don't know if they explain in that one or not.
They don't.
But it has the same actor.
Oh, right. Yeah, it does have the same actor. They don't explain it, but like he's in prison and he's released through like reforming or something like that. This like priest thinks that he's like reformed or whatever, and he wants to like take him under his wing. But instead of him, of course, reforming, he breaks away, kills the priest, and then he wants to like go find Scully because he's been obsessed with her for like the past like 5 years or 6 years.
Yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
I mean, with the person that's fucked up, I don't know about fucked up. I would say darker would be there was an episode called Grotesque where you had
right.
What was him from RoboCop?
Kurtwood Smith,
Clarence Boddicker. Yeah, and it'd be like kind of a darker take where Mulder's going a bit more insane, and people's eyes are like kind of sewed shut, and they're wrapped in this clay and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Or Our Town, because it's about a chicken factory. You find out it's made of people,
right?
People. But it's hard to beat home. I mean, that was the only one that got banned.
Yeah, I don't think that there's another like episode that is up to that level of kind of like but gruesomeness. But if there was a second or third one, I don't know. Like nothing really comes close to that. I don't even think they.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll get into Home eventually, but at some stream at some point in time, you could do a whole show on that freaking episode alone. Really,
you could. There's probably some more fucked up ones I'm not even thinking about right now. But
well, the one that always creeped me the fuck out, and I can't think of the name of it right now. I'm sure that you'll know though, Mark, is the one where like the guy like he goes into work and he keeps seeing like this giant like praying mantis
thing.
Yeah, that's it. I was
Folie-à-Deux. Yeah.
Because Mulder starts seeing this blood-like thing.
Yeah, and then just because of the way it moved and everything, like they've got this really weird kind of the same as in House on Haunted Hill, the way that the characters move. They move like really fast and then stop. Yeah. And you know what I mean? It's just that episode always freaked me out.
Yeah. Just
because of that part of it too. And I just don't like fucking bugs either, to be honest. So Afro is we appreciate it, Afro. Let's see. Saturn says grotesque is almost Lovecraftian.
Yeah, I'd agree with that in a way.
Maybe.
Let's see. Carter Detention finally made his ass in here. Humbug is his favorite episode. That's a great episode.
That's
too.
a great one. That one's kind of
Has a
fucked
good
up in a
ending.
way too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it has a good ending too. Must have been something I ate. If you know the episode, you know what it means. But
I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. How did X Cop scare the crap out of you, Carter Detention? That was like more of a comedic episode.
Yeah. Great idea though.
he scared the police.
Yeah.
They still be at his front door next.
But
Just don't come out with a shirtless like all those other guys did on Cops. It used to be always like.
So the last one of that episode or that season that I want to bring up is the Erlenmeyer Flash, just because like that really to me is like the beginning of the mythology part that would carry over throughout all the seasons. And I love it just because of a lot of the visuals in it. You know, you got the first time I really think that you really saw like the guys suspended in the giant tanks and stuff like that, you know, in the fluid and like the super soldierish kind of aspect to it where, you know, it turns out that they're working on like introducing extraterrestrial viruses into these guys and like seeing, and this is like kind of the result of what happens. They kind of turn into these like unstoppable kind of things. But really more so than anything, just how that episode ends and you never really suspect that's going to happen. Like, at least I didn't. I remember watching it and being blown away. And I remember that being a huge thing at the time too, as people were like, holy shit, like, you know, well, it's a 30-some-year-old show. So if people don't know, like at the end of that episode, Deep Throat dies. So it's fucking spoiler alert. But, and just the way that goes about happening too, I think that just made the show, that cemented the show. And trust no one and all that shit. That's the last thing that he says is
right.
It's perfect. You know?
Yeah, and then you have the cigarette smoking man hiding the alien fetus in the basement of the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Much like he hides the alien implant that Mulder and Scully find in the body in the first episode. He does the same thing at the end of the first episode. He goes in the basement of the Pentagon, puts the evidence in there, takes it away.
Almost looks like the same place as the Ark of the Covenant's at. It's just
it's the same storage room. Yeah. It's such a cool idea though to introduce him in like shadows, where they just gradually started to like introduce him like he would be like standing somewhere and he never said anything. And I think he was supposed to be a bit player, wasn't he? Like he wasn't even supposed to be like a speaking role or anything like that. Yeah. And then it just caught on, like this guy that just, you know, was kind of there, just kind of caught on, and then they gave him like dialogue, and he became like a part of the show. But I mean, the menace behind like him kind of just always being there in these really high profile situations, and you not knowing anything about him or what he does. Yeah, I mean, that was one of the cooler parts of the show. Really.
Definitely.
So I guess we're on to season 2.
Well, before I want to ask first off, you were talking about the mythology. When do you think that left the barn, so to speak? Because there's a point, even in the first, 7 to 8 seasons, where they're kind of laying on a bit thick. Like, if you quiz me on what all the conspiracy is, I can't tell you.
I could.
It's just so complicated.
Mark, I'm betting you could.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I need a Venn diagram to explain everything in the 9 seasons. I'm like, so there's Brian Thompson as the shifter body, like the bounty hunter, and then there's the Boyle, but then there's a guy with no eyes.
Yeah.
But then you have actual aliens in a ship, and then you have these clones, and then you have his sister, but then his sister died another way. It's like I can't keep up.
His sister died about 4 different ways in that show, by the way. Like, if we're led to believe all that stuff, for me, it's two words. Like when it jumped the shark, was whenever they brought in that character. I think her name was it Maria Cruz? No.
Trevor Rubio.
You're talking about the
Yeah,
mythology.
Marita.
You're talking about the
Okay,
mythology part.
mythology,
When they introduced that character, Karuvibus, I can't pronounce it.
Covarrubias.
There you go. It just started getting more and more kind of like convoluted and shit and complex.
Yeah, you mean, yeah.
But like in terms of like me like really hating one specific character, yeah, that would have been it, man. For me, like when they introduced fucking
You mentioned that.
Yeah.
You mentioned that before. I'm like, there's gotta be a time where you mentioned that. What is it about her? I'm just curious.
It's just
I'm just curious. What is it about her?
She added really like nothing to the show, and she was like kind of psychic, but that was kind of a part of her character, but kind of like not. And it was just completely unnecessary. Like what they were clearly doing was bringing in 2 replacements, right? And they were going to just kind of gradually move them into, but it just didn't click. It didn't work. Like, I mean, Doggett, I think worked.
Oh, he was amazing.
Yeah, but I don't think that Annabeth Gish just was a good enough actress or whatever it was to pull that off. Like, and she was kind of lame. She was like the X Factor, in comic book kind of in comic book teams. Like there's the X-Men and then there's like the X Factor. She was like the B team or something. It just didn't. So she's a little bit psychic and kind of annoying.
Mm-hmm.
That was like her special powers or whatever.
Yeah,
and being annoying was her special powers.
Yeah.
They also reveal at one point that she's like in some sort of a relationship or dating Alex Krycek.
Oh, Christ. Yeah, I do remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Krycek was another one, by the way, that kind of like when it got up to that point with the mythology, that's when shit's really started to get kind of crazy too. I liked the beginning of that. I liked what they did at the beginning, but like as it goes on, it's like I don't think they knew where they were going. And like it just seemed like it wasn't planned out well, or like it's a lot of it later on kind of got made up.
Well, I think for it got. Go ahead.
No, you go.
So I was saying, I think because they were being so successful, it's like they didn't know when the show was going to end, so they felt, well, it's another season. Well, we got to stretch it out. But what they could have done is you still stick with the standalone, but then just end your one, and you could always create a new threat or a new conspiracy or a new something. Like you could end one, you could always create another. But they just felt like they couldn't do that. It's like in their eyes, if they ended it, the show's done.
Mm-hmm.
But there could always be a different threat or a different bit of conspiracy to unload. But
they kind of did a little bit in season 9, but it seems like it was dropped. I don't know if you remember where they like kidnapped Skelly's baby or whatever.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's like a cult. But they they found an alien spacecraft. So, but to them, like in the craft, it houses like the physical manifestation of God. At least like that's what they think. And that's what they've theorized. And then there's the whole thing where like the syndicate is gone at this point. Like they're done. I think they were killed back in like season 6. So once they're done, they're like, well, we got to have something else. And then they try to go in the whole like super soldier route with exploring that a lot more, where it's not about like infecting the population with the alien virus, which is black oil or also called purity. They try to just skew off into that. But by that point, like the show was already coming to a close. And I remember Robert Patrick saying he was really disappointed because they had a lot of really cool ideas that didn't get fleshed out. And he was contractually obligated for like, I think 5 years. So he had another 3 years for the show, but they stopped it in season 9. So they just stopped it there. And I don't know what they were going for with it.
It's kind of depressing too, because it seemed to have some like life in it at that point. I don't think they gave it enough time to really like see if it could work out with those characters. Like they just kind of pulled the plug on it too early. I think if they would have maybe given it another couple of years, I think it would have come into some other version of itself that would have been good. It was good in season 8, like I thought.
That was the best place to end the main mythology, I thought.
Yeah, like you guys mentioned, I think Robert Patrick did a wonderful job. I liked his character.
Yes.
I can see what you mean about Monica Reyes. I can see what you mean. If I don't know if Gillian Anderson could somehow stay on the show, I think actually the two of them work better as a team in season 8 than the other two. I think there was no fault Robert Patrick. Yeah, I can see what you mean about the other lady. Like if Gillian Anderson stayed around, or if you got like a different actress or different writing for it or something. Yeah, maybe it would have helped.
It was just too that they were popping in and out too. Like, you know, like sometimes Duchovny would come back on and then Gillian Anderson would come back on, and they were interacting with the new characters, and it just, she didn't really have a whole hell of a lot to do. That was another big problem too. Like she didn't get a lot of screen time or a lot to do. And so it just became this thing where she's just there, and you didn't get a really fleshed out character, I don't think.
Yeah.
Or anything like that with her.
Yeah, some of the best stuff I think was or it's sort of like an unsung chemistry like between Duchovny and Patrick. There's a few episodes in there in the middle and toward the end of season 8 where they work together a little bit. And I thought they were great playing off of each other, because here you have Robert Patrick's character who's like this like guy who's been in the Marines, and like he was a street cop, then he moved up to detective, and now he's FBI. And he's thrust in the world of like all this aliens and all this crazy stuff. And then so like Mulder's like sort of like, hey, this is the way, this is how it's gonna go. And he's kind of like his muscle in a way too. Not that, you know, Mulder's a wimp or anything, but you know, like it was a cool dynamic that I liked, but they didn't explore that enough at all. And I think by then, because it was toward the end of season 8 and they were going into season 9, Duchovny was done anyway. So
yeah, I think that you're exactly right too. Like they just, there's so many like relationships that could have been kind of built on that show, and they just didn't give it enough time to do it. And like you said, like he was the skeptic, really, like Doggett was to Mulder's, you know, like that's how the roles kind of switched to Mulder's kind of paranormal point of view, and he was the skeptic. But then he started to kind of shift as the seasons go on, like same way as Scully did. So yeah, if they would have let that go on, it probably would have been really, really interesting to see how it evolved, but they just did. So real quick though, season 2. I want to bring up a couple episodes. I'm gonna throw like one out there to you guys that we haven't yet mentioned, and just kind of get like your opinion on it, because this to me is like one of the best UFO driven episodes, which is Dwayne Barry is in season 2.
Steve Railsback.
Yes. So for those people that don't know Steve Railsback, you should probably get to know him, because he's one of those character actors that's like highly, highly underrated. He was in the Manson. He was Charlie Manson in the Manson Family TV movie, and he's been in like a ton of movies. But so what do you guys remember, if you remember Dwayne Barry?
Steve Rosebatch's crazy performance of just this guy that had been abducted so many times, and it's like he didn't want to go back at all, and not in the slightest. And Scully has to pay for it. I think that the reason that episode came about because Gillian Anderson was pregnant, and they had to get her off the show for a while, so that was a way to do it, and it was a 2-parter. And again, it made you wonder like, anything could happen to these characters. I mean, granted, real life circumstances made that happen, but yeah, they could disappear. They could be experimented on. Even Mulder later got experimented on with not just the later season, but with the black oil and all that stuff. But yeah, Steve Railsback definitely sold that 2-part, especially just how just insane he was, just crazy. If I ain't going back, you just
yeah. He's great in those roles like that too, where he's just kind of like manic. Yeah.
Not to jump backward, but we skipped one that's really great for season 1. I just thought about.
Oh, we skipped a lot of great ones. Go ahead.
I just got to mention Brad Dourif and Beyond the Sea.
Oh Jesus, man! Yeah, like
amazing performance.
I think that when did freaking Exorcist 3 come out?
It's at 1990.
So 90. Then that means that episode ripped off Exorcist 3, because if you look at that, even the character, right? So like with the conversation with her, and then like he's basically the same damn character as he was in like Exorcist 3. Like he's, kind of like locked up in this facility and they're talking and all this shit. And then he just starts like saying that he's psychic and that he, has these, that he can contact her dad and all this, that, and yada, yada. So minus the religious aspect of it and all that was in the Exorcist, it's the same creepy ass character, which, I mean, I think we all know that Brad Dourif plays that character great. But that episode, I love that song is like carries throughout that episode, and like that's the common thread, is like keep bringing up that was one of like that was the song that was playing and all that stuff. Yeah,
they almost didn't get Brad Dourif. I remember them saying Glenn Morgan and James Wong put up their the money that they got paid for the screenplay, or I guess teleplay because it's a TV script, but they took that money and put it toward getting Brad Dourif. That's how bad they wanted him. And I remember them saying that he wanted so much money. They were like, no, we're going to get somebody else. And they're like, no, man, like you got to cast Dourif. It's going to work. And it did. It's still one of the best episodes in the season.
It did work very, very well. Yeah. I love there's a creepy ass scene in that episode too. If you remember when it's Scully wakes up, I think it's after Christmas, like sometime after Christmas, like she meets with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, she wakes up and he's sitting in a chair talking, but there's nothing. It's silent. It's like he's moving his mouth, but there's no words or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then like, I think the phone rings and she finds out that he died. And then she turns around and he's not like, there's nobody in the chair anymore. That's like one of the best scenes, like just in terms of just kind of creepiness and stuff too. It's like something that would happen in a dream.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm glad you brought up that one though. Yeah. I would have skipped over Beyond the Sea, but I'm glad you brought that up because that was a great one.
Yeah. Going back to Dwayne Barry, though, do you guys remember like Krychek's Mulder's partner at that time?
Oh, that's because of the pregnancy, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
And then I think she gets abducted in the second part of the episode, and then she's gone for a few more episodes after that. And then Krychek's his partner for a little while.
Which Krychek sucked. Can we all just agree that he kind of sucked?
I'm a little biased. I love Krychek. He's one of my favorite characters. I'm sorry.
He's too slick, man.
I know that's what makes him awesome. He's like the heel that you love to hate in wrestling.
He is the heel. You're right. Yeah, of the whole show. Okay, let's get some of these questions or comments here real quick. Okay. You'll know this, Mark. I guarantee it. What's the episode with the bat creature living upside down in the house in season 9?
That is, I think, the 3rd episode of season 9. That's a really good one. There's like a bat creature that's been like hunted by this family, and like this old guy's like living out in the middle of the nowhere, but like it first is discovered by Doggett and Scully because it like attacks like this old couple or something. And actually that's not season 9, that's season 8.
Damn.
Sorry, I'm so specific. But anyway, yeah, it's one of the best episodes, I think, at least in terms of Monster of the Week of that season, just because Doggett, like, actually, that's the first time where he sees something like that's like tangible, you know what I mean?
Paranormal, yeah.
Yeah, and like I remember he just like unloads his gun so many times in that episode. It's really good.
Johnny Darko says that he goes, X-Files are phenomenal. They need a Blu-ray physical media release. Don't they have a Blu-ray physical media release for it? Or a new Blu-ray
like this one.
Oh, new.
I don't know if this is in print though. It might be out of print. I don't know.
Yeah, the set that I have, which is the Region 1 one, is out of print. So
okay,
maybe that's why.
It goes for a crazy amount of money too.
All right, Wild Wrangler says, "What's the episode where Mulder's on shrooms?"
That's in season 11. That's a funny episode.
Oh God, I would never remember that. Jackson Jack says it's amazing that Rob Zombie never put Steve Railsback in anything. That's true, man. Like that's the perfect character actor for Rob Zombie to use. Just come out all manic, screaming like curse words at everybody. Let's see. Okay, we talked about this one, Jackson. This is Tombs or Squeeze, whichever one you want to go by. What's up, Neopunk?
I agree with Alpha Romero's comment there about the theme song.
Oh yeah,
it is very iconic. As soon as it comes on, like you know what that is.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mark
perfect.
Snow said that he accidentally made that, by the way. Carter's like sampling all these different like pieces of music that he wants for the show, and they can't come up with a theme, right? So like he's playing different instruments, and then like I think Mark Snow said he turned around and like his elbow accidentally hit like a keyboard or something, and then like it also hit like a button that made it like echo. So that's why you have that like echo part of the theme, and that it just grew from there. Like,
it's so simple too. It's simple, but it's great. It's like Jaws or something, like just the notes, put together in the way that they are, just kind of make it. And it's very simple kind of creepiness to it. I'd forgotten about this episode. This is a fucking killer episode though. Field trip where they're stuck in the cave, but they don't know they're stuck in the cave because they're hallucinating and all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great episode. All right. So where were we at, guys? Season
you were talking about Dwayne Barry in season 2.
Dwayne Barry, okay. So that's my pick, I guess, for like one of my favorite episodes from season 2. Like you guys, what do you think? There's a bunch that are actually really good from that season.
I think for me, I would have to pick the host. Just the design of that Fluke Man and
Fluke Man,
like, just underground. And I don't know why. I always kept thinking they're going. His face was going to go through a toilet or something, like the Ghoulies poster. I don't know why I kept thinking that.
I think that they kind of were like, going to imply that at some point. Yeah. Wasn't that?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, wasn't the guy that played the Fluke Man the guy that's wasn't that one of the writers?
Darren Morgan.
Darren Morgan, yeah,
that's him. Yeah,
that's what he would go on to do another episode too. That was one of my
Small
favorites.
Potatoes.
Yeah, Small Potatoes. Yeah, it's coming up.
Yep. But yeah, the host is just a good monster episode, and the sewer system. Anytime you put that, it can always create a lot of either claustrophobia or a lot of just a murky setting. And it just, like I said, has a strong, good, like makeup effects driven monster in the middle of it. And I'm a sucker for that because those are the type of movies I grew up with. So it was kind of cool to see Mon Scully. That's definitely a Kolchak type of episode. Because I could see like Kolchak coming over against a monster just like that. And being a fan of that show as well, so that was cool to see as well.
And the suit that is great. Like somebody mentioned on here that should have been a movie on its own, like just about the Fluke Man. But that design was amazing, and it still holds up to this day. I think. I mean, in terms of like something just horrific, to look at. But the idea behind it too is that there's just things killing these people in the sewers. They're finding these bodies, but they got little parasites in them. And what's putting the parasites in them? Well, it's this giant other fucking parasite. It's
right.
Living in like a man parasite living in the sewer system. But that design, I'll never forget that scene where he just floats up like out of the water, and it's just like that face and everything with the whatever they call that something, but the graboids that are there. Yes.
Oh man, that looks awesome.
What's up, Zero? Cool.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just creepy. I mean, can you imagine that being in your toilet? Fuck no. I'd rather have a ghoulie than that thing. Yeah, that's true. It did at the end. Oh, I mean, at the end, it got cut in half, but that is one of the things that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm surprised that's one they never did a sequel to. With some of the sequels.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really popular. Like that episode was really popular. I don't know why they didn't do it either. And that, like, again, is one of the better of the Monster of the Week kind of episodes too.
Definitely. Yeah.
People are bringing up all kinds of episodes on here that I didn't even think about Emasculata.
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
good one. The really, really gross like makeup effects in that.
Yeah.
You got pus like jumping into people's mouths and stuff. It's gross.
Buddy, you need to watch an episode. I'm sick of this shit. I've tried to get you to watch an episode for like the last 10 years. You don't ever want to watch it.
CK, jump on, man. What are you waiting on?
Jesus.
Get on it.
Okay, so Mark, what would you pick? I mean, pick one from season 2 that you think would be like one of your favorites.
Other than like a mythology episode, because I'm just so into
Well,
that.
I mean, it could be a mythology episode. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
There's a couple I want to mention. I'm gonna try not to mention. Somebody already mentioned Humbug, which is really good.
Yeah.
But for me, it would be Die Hand Diver Let's.
I remember that episode. Yeah.
It's about Satanists that have moved into this town, and one girl in specific, like I guess she's like the lead of the episode. She comes to Mulder and Scully, and she's like, my parents are involved in occultist activity. I've been raped repeatedly, and they've been stealing the fetuses and sacrificing them to Satan. Like, what do you even do with that? That's a dark fucking episode right there.
So, yeah, that's what we do on the weekends around here in Cracker Yeah. In terms of like fucked up episodes, though, or plot lines to fucked up episodes, that's right up there. Yeah.
Definitely.
I always remember the teacher in that. She has such a unique look. Mrs. Paddock, I think.
Yep.
Because I always liked the bit where at the end, Mulder and Scully find the chalkboard and she wrote, "It's been nice working with you."
Yeah.
That was like a nice little point where, I forget the actress's name, but I thought she did a really good job in that. And it's like a weird thing, like she had this weird tongue, like this type of thing, like, a snake or something. I don't know what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because she like
very weird
uses black magic to manifest like this giant like evil serpent or something, and then I think it kills the father who's supposedly been raping the girl repeatedly.
Yeah.
The snake like swallows him whole.
Yeah.
That fucking episode was pretty heavy for that time period, man. We're talking about what, about 94, 95, something like that? Jesus.
Yep.
Yeah, really dark. There's one before that too, actually. I think it's called Alexis D or Alexis Day, something like that. Do you guys remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
It's inspired by The Entity, where the ghost is raping the chick in like I think it's like a retirement home or something.
Oh God, I kind of remember this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another fucked up one too.
Type of herb to calm them down, but then they were able to see like these ghosts, and it was like because they were so abused, they wanted to kill and attack these nurses and stuff that abused them and stuff. Excelsius D.
Yeah.
So a couple things.
Weird ass episodes. Go ahead. There's some weird ass ideas though.
That was great. Yeah, that's what made the show really. Zero Cool says, "I'm surprised the pyro guy from Fire never came back." I don't know if you guys talked about that one. We did not talk about Fire. But,
right. They do capture him at the end.
Yeah. And he's burned up, but then he's like smiling. He's like, "You got a cigarette?"
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite ones. I thought they had some good fire stunts in that. And you find out that Mulder's afraid of fire, which I don't think they ever do that again. They kind of forget about that, which I think that would have been cool to keep that going. But I remember that also has Amanda Pays, who's been in a couple of films, as a Scotland Yard lady that came in, and Scully gets jealous of her for
I think they said like her and Mulder dated or something in the past, or they worked on a case together. So they got some kind of like old chemistry or something. Duchovny actually got burned in that episode, so maybe he didn't want to work with fire anymore.
That was it. Yeah, he's like, nope. That's not going to be a part of it. Yeah.
Bullshit. I ain't getting paid enough for this.
This is an interesting question too. Jackson says, "Are there any episodes that resemble slasher movies? that might be easy for CK to jump on. I think to me, thinking just off the top of my head, Irresistible is the one that closest resembles like a slasher kind of vibe, really.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other ones which just straight up like that.
Not necessarily. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, I mean you go ahead. I can't think of any. Like I keep when they said it, I keep thinking more of the first season Millennium is more of like the serial killer bit of slasher stuff. So that might be one. CT might be interested in seeing at least the first season of Millennium. That'd be interesting for him to watch. Might be something you'd be into, but they didn't do a whole lot of slasher stuff that I can think of.
They do have a few episodes where there are serial killers and they are sort of picking off victims, but nothing that like would really fit a full-on slasher aesthetic, I would say.
No, I mean, if you look at like Pusher, that was another one too, where he was kind of just like, he was killing people, but it wasn't like a slasher per se, because technically they were killing themselves. So I don't know, like, but there's episodes like that, like you were saying, where it's like one guy kind of like going after people, but it's there's usually some supernatural element to it somehow or another.
I don't know why I keep thinking you should show CT that episode Hungry, just because the guy works at the fast food place and he starts eating people.
That's right. That might actually go over, yeah. I actually kind of like that episode too. As odd as it is.
Yeah. Has CK seen any episodes? I know he said he saw the movie.
He saw the movie, yeah, but I don't think he's seen any of the actual episodes.
Okay.
Because he's a piece of trash. So, Black Forest Cafe says he's surprised the X-Files never did a Halloween episode. The X-Files Christmas episode where they spend Christmas Eve investigating a haunted house was fun. It was a great episode, yeah.
There is a Halloween episode.
With Lily Tomlin and Ed Asner, I think. That was the Christmas episode.
Not the
Christmas one,
yeah, right. Yeah. That's a good one. But
what's the Halloween episode?
It's where the two twin girls are like psychically linked together. It's got Ryan Reynolds in it.
Is that Eve?
No, Eve is about the clones.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
That's it, Matt.
It's a little bit like Heathers, with a kind of sense of humor of Heathers, kind of that thing.
Oh shit! I remember.
And that silent movie kept playing on TV. There's like I forget what it's called. They fast forward all the movies back in the days, silent films.
Yeah, but there's it's set around Halloween, and they even go to a Halloween party in the middle of the episode and cause some havoc there. So yeah, there is one.
Ryan Reynolds was in that.
Yeah, he gets killed at.
I forgot.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, like I said, it's 35 years old. People ain't seen this shit by now. They ain't no spoiler alert, man.
There's a lot of famous people that get killed. Jack Black got killed by the electricity guy, TPO. Yeah, two was Filter's Hey Man, Nice Shot.
Do you guys know the lead singer of Filter is Robert Patrick's brother?
No.
Oh,
not know that.
Trivia for you guys.
Mark, you're blowing my mind tonight. Like, this is I had no idea. All right, so I want to talk about this one because this one is probably in my top 3. I probably watched this episode more than maybe any of the other episodes. I don't know why either, but there was something about his performance in it, and something about like it was just maybe it's where like horror meets the X-Files, but Irresistible is, like I said, probably like one of my favorite episodes, just because it's so creepy because he's stalking basically at some point Scully, and he keeps calling her like girly, I think.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, and it's just the way that he carries himself and like the way that he talks throughout the whole episode and things too. You could tell he studied like serial killers and kind of like their mannerisms, especially like you said, like Dahmer. It's very like much like kind of Dahmer too. And there's something about that episode, even though it's not technically like a monster episode per se, and it's not a mythology episode, but like I said, it's just kind of where like true crime, meets the X-Files
Yeah.
in a really, really horrific way. But I always like that episode. Always stood out to me, mostly because of Nick Chinlund and his performance in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason why it stuck with you. And I remember the episode too. It's his performance really. You just get a creepy vibe from it, not just from what he does, but just his performance.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who don't know, Nick Chillen, you might remember from another movie called Con Air. He's the guy who Nick Cage goes, "Put the bunny back in the box." That's who he says it to. But
that's not a bad Nick Cage impression either, right?
But
that movie's awesome.
He sold that well. Yeah, I love that movie. And Nick Chillen, I mean, there's not a lot of stuff he got to do. He never became a big actor, but like you mentioned, like they cast well. I mean, from Brad Dourif to Nick Chillen to Steve Railsback, like even for these essential roles, they cast fairly well even early on. And like you had like Jack Black before he was famous.
Yeah,
Patrick Kilpatrick, Jeff Kolber.
You mentioned
who's
the one guy? Oh Jesus, who's the one guy too? Paper Hearts, the guy in Paper Hearts.
Oh yeah, Tom Noonan.
Yeah, he's amazing in that too.
Yeah.
Vincent Schiavelli was in Humbug. He was in a lot of stuff. Character actor. They did a good job with the casting in a lot of these episodes. And like you said, Nick Chinlund, he's the reason why it makes that episode work fairly well. So, plus you didn't see anything on TV. There was no other competition, other shows. I mean, there was a lot of ripoffs afterward. Like there was 50 ripoffs because of the success of it. From what there was, they tried to do one with a virus called the Burning Zone. They tried to do a few years later, kind of like a Blair Witch type of theme, but at the same time, it was like Freaky Links or something. Like they try to do all sorts of weird shows afterwards, stuff like that. But they had the right idea where no one was really doing something like this, so it felt new and different. And plus, they had good writing and casting that really helped a lot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a lightning in a bottle show. We can't recreate it.
No. So, oh Jesus, I forgot about this one too. Do y'all remember One Breath?
Yeah.
And that one is kind of like the return of Scully. Like, I'm assuming that's after the pregnancy and everything when she actually like came back to the series. But it's the one where she just shows up like in a hospital and she's in a coma and Mulder flips out and he's like going around trying to figure out what. And it kind of shows like that he can lose control and there's all this bad aspects to his character and stuff that come out in it. I always thought that was an interesting one too because you never really saw him in that light that much where he just completely loses his shit. And
right.
So I thought that was really good and a really good way to introduce her character back into the show, like from that too. I always like that episode.
Matt, you got one?
Well, I was just going to say what really made those episodes was it really explored also the connection between those two. That you didn't have to, like we mentioned before, you didn't have to have a love interest. It was actually better for that. It made it more interesting, and that shows that you can have friendship and that could be even stronger. And again, it made it more unique. It made it more different. So it stood out more and people appreciated that more, which, for some reason, some higher ups are too stupid to get. Go figure.
All right, here's another trivia question.
Yeah.
Trivia question. Did we talk about Bruce Campbell in the Terms of Endearment episode? No.
That's season 6. We're not there yet.
We're not yet. We're in the early seasons right now. But we will get to a lot of these that a lot of people are bringing up. Tony Todd, yeah.
That's a cool episode.
That's a good episode too, yeah.
That's Sleepless.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good episode because I like the idea of these Vietnam vets. They have been part of this experiment to not be able to sleep, and because of that, they've gone a bit crazy. And it's a pretty interesting idea. And I thought Tony Todd did a really good job with that. I think that's also where Stephen Williams first comes in as the replacement of Deep Throat called X. And I thought he was a good choice as well. And what happened to Deep Throat happened to him pretty much later on. Don't be a foreman for them. You ain't gonna
No.
last long.
Yeah, and then like once X is eliminated, he like writes something in blood on the floor, and it's basically it leads Mulder to Marita Covarrubias,
Yeah.
and she's like the follow-up
That
character.
son of a bitch.
It's his dying wish. The Kalashari is a great episode if you guys remember that one, season 2.
I don't remember that one. Tell me about that one.
So it's the one where at the beginning they have like a mom like and her toddler and like older kids like about 6 or 7 years old. The balloon like flies away from the toddler.
Oh shit. Yeah,
and
okay.
they figure out that it's a force pulling the balloon so that the toddler can end up on the train tracks and get hit by a train, which is really fucking dark. Like when you think about it.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier about like when dark kind of episodes.
Yeah. And like I think the mother-in-law is like a Roman like spiritualist or something like that, and like so but Mulder and Scully think that like she's involved in the occult, but it's really not. It's really something else. There's like a evil attachment to the boy or something like that, and it basically turns into like The Exorcist toward the end, because there is like an exorcism at the end of the episode.
I remember the beginning of that one more so than anything else, with the balloon and the kid getting hit and everything.
Yeah,
you never saw shit like that, like on TV, especially.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So, is there any other things you guys can think of from any other episodes from season 2?
Soft Light.
You read my mind. That one has Tony Shalhoub in it, and he did a good job as a scientist looking into dark matter.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of a neat idea where his shadow, if people approach it, they'd be instantly vaporized. Mm-hmm. And it is such a weird episode, but interesting idea. And I thought Tony Shalhoub did a really good job, like selling this guy that is trying to do the right thing, doesn't want it, but people are too stupid to listen, so they get what they deserve, I guess. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
But that was kind of the fun, is that you didn't know what to expect because they could create anything, and that was like I said, part of the fun of that. To go back real quick on season one that I thought was kind of interesting, if I remember the name, because I'm bad with names, is I thought the idea of Roland was pretty interesting, where you have this mentally challenged guy controlled by this guy's brain in a freezer, mm-hmm. who's cryogenically frozen, and he's controlling his janitor as if he was Sling Blade, going around killing people, and a guy gets sucked in a fan at one point.
Oh yeah, he throws the guy in the jet engine. He gets grinded up. Yeah. That was a cool episode.
It's like Blood Diner in a way. Yeah.
Speaking of Blood Diner,
the Jason X kill right there.
So just have to hit his head and get knocked off. But a lot of good episodes for. I mean, there's very few that I hated. I mean, I'd always rant on Space again because that's the worst of these 2 seasons. I hate that fucking episode. It was so garbage. Like half of it was stock footage of NASA that you could tell.
Yeah, you can.
The other half was Mulder and Scully standing around with the thumb up their butt, just try to figure out what to do, and then this crappy effects. And that'd be a question for each of you. What do you think was the worst episode?
Oh shit! I knew you were gonna ask that, and I'm like,
I know.
Of season 1, Space for sure. I mean,
yeah,
there's no question. It's boring. Nothing really happens. That's of like interest, like to the viewer. It drags. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one at all.
So if you're talking about the whole series, though, I couldn't even because like. I'm
going to season or anything.
Yeah, I'm just going to. I'm going to contain it. I'm going to contain it to the first 8 seasons, because after that, there's a lot of really bad episodes. So let's see, what would be the worst episode I can think of those?
Maybe Jersey Devil.
I hate. I didn't bring up Jersey Devil from season 1 because I never liked that episode. So that could definitely be up there. Yeah. There's got to be worse than that, though. There were some really bad ones. Let me think.
So, so Stuntman, what about season 2? Was there a least favorite season 2
Episode?
that you thought this was the weakest? Yeah, for season 2. But for me, I'll choose I don't know if it's the weakest, but .com, where they get older, because the makeup where they're getting older is pretty funky.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's supposed to be they go into the submarine or something, Navy destroyer, and then they rapidly age.
I remember
but like,
that, yeah.
They didn't know how to act old, and the makeup was really bad on that. It's funny how the monster looked better, but if you old age makeup didn't look that good, so I guess they're still trying to figure the way. But that's what came to mind, like one of the lesser season 2 ones.
Oh,
at least for me.
The episode right before that, maybe Fearful Symmetry.
Yeah.
The Invisible Elephant. Do you remember that? I'm not like.
I know you're not.
I actually like that episode, but I get what you mean. I can't defend it.
Yeah.
It was aliens picking up animals from a zoo because they wanted like their own Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
Wait, I know what it is for me. I was looking at I was looking at the episodes, and Fresh Bones. It would be the one from season 2 that I don't like.
Is that the voodoo one?
That's the voodoo one, yeah. Okay. I don't like voodoo shit in general. Like I didn't like the Serpent and the Rainbow. I just don't. I'm not into voodoo.
What?
I don't give a shit. Like
that's the real religion, though.
Yeah, it's great. They're real zombies.
I don't like voodoo shit.
I don't like voodoo shit. I just don't. This is not interesting to me. I don't know why, but yeah.
Someone please make that a T-shirt. I don't like voodoo shit. You just carry it around like, what does that mean? Okay. I don't like voodoo shit.
I've got a real bad hatred for voodoo shit for some reason. Like even like when people always talk about, well, you know that like White Zombie is one of the first zombies. I don't give a shit. I don't like movies like that. Like Night of the Living Dead was actually when zombies became interesting. Before that, it was ridiculous. Yeah. But here, I don't want to get into season 3 because season 3 is one of my favorite seasons. So, I mean, once we get to season 3, 4, and 5, which I think we'll probably do next time, that's going to be a lot of shit. That'll be among my favorite episodes. So I want to stop at season 2 this time and then pick up next time when we do those. So if anybody on here has any comments, questions, or things like that, basically direct everything to Mark in terms of if you want to know specific episodes or titles and shit like that. But yeah, my plan though is to try to do this weekly, by the way.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes. Like if you guys are able to do it or not. And if you're not, that's not a big deal, but I'm going to try to do it every week and just go, through the different seasons. Jackson Jack wants to know, what about the Killer Tree episode?
Yeah, that one's honestly, it's not the best one, but it's also not the worst, at least of that season to me. But I couldn't defend it. Yeah, it's not.
I can't remember that one
really. It's
what season was that?
That's season 5.
Killer Tree episode. I don't remember the Killer Tree either. I get my shit together on this.
Yeah, it's like a. Is it like a? I think it's a vineyard or like an orchard or something like that. And there's these trees that are alive and they kill specific people. And the kid's being bullied and he hates his dad and shit. And it's just, not one of the better ones.
No, it doesn't sound very entertaining.
There's a reason I forgot it. I completely blanking out on that. I guess, man, it must have been I don't know, PTSD. I can't remember.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Season 2 is when it really starts to click and everything starts to come together.
Well, I didn't show this, but if people were wondering why I was looking down from way back in the day, you see the web there. from 1996, which I don't even know if they do Entertainment Weekly nowadays, but I used to subscribe to them back in the day.
Remember those
And this
days
had
when like people had magazines? I used to love magazines. Yeah.
And you could tell what was the big hits of that year. Space Jam.
Dude, I used to love like looking at those lists like that when they had like the box office breakdowns and everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you guys like the vampire episode in season 2?
Oh, friggin' hell. What is the vampire episode? I'm thinking of Bad Blood. When you said vampire episode, that's the first one that came to mind, but that's not the one.
No, it's I think it's called 3. You remember it, Rambo?
Oh, it's like a female vampire,
Yeah.
I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, is that the
I
one that
vaguely remember
seduces
that.
Mulder?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's it.
I
I
didn't
remember that
think it was
mine.
bad, man. Oh, God, I'm looking at these.
I'm surprised they didn't do more werewolf, because there's a werewolf one in season 1 that was there, but for such a popular creature, I can't, other than the comedic one in the season I don't talk about, they didn't really do a lot of werewolf like stuff. Like they did like a couple vampires, like Bad Blood later on in 3,
Mm-hmm.
and other stuff, but I tried to think of the other stuff they never did. I'm surprised because they covered a lot of different type of creatures, like the Loch Ness type of one they did, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was a good episode,
Did
too.
they
I
ever
actually
do-
like that one.
did they ever do a Bigfoot one?
No.
I don't remember them ever doing
I'm not
it.
sure.
Mulder mentions Bigfoot in an episode, but they don't ever hunt for him or anything.
But
The werewolf episode was actually at the request of Fox. They wanted a more traditional monster, so they were like, "Oh, okay, we'll do a werewolf one."
That's weird they never did Bigfoot, though. I guess they just couldn't figure out a way to make that like halfway believable. Yeah.
we can't top $1 Million Man defeating Bigfoot or Robot Bigfoot or whatever it was back in the day.
Nah.
Richard Keel or whatever. Or was it? Was it Richard Keel or Andre the Giant? I think Richard Keel. I think there was a $6 Million Man episode where he fought Bigfoot, guys. I'm not kidding. So maybe they're like, we can't beat that.
Jack Frost says, I like the one where Mulder and Scully pretend to move into the new house in a nice neighborhood. In the beginning of the episode, they had a creature that looked like Swamp Thing. Yeah, remember where they like they're pretending to be a couple?
That's Arcadia.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's a great episode too.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fun one.
Season
Let's see.
6. We'll get there.
Have we ever seen Supernatural? Unfortunately, I have, because Savannah loves that show and she makes me watch that shit all the time. But like, I don't want to see Jensen. What's his name? Jensen Daggett? Or that's the chick from
Jensen Ackles.
Jensen Ackles.
That's right.
Jensen, yeah, Jensen Daggett is a chick from Jason Takes Manhattan. Same different.
I've never seen it. I've heard of it. I've never seen the episode.
I've seen like a handful of episodes that people have recommended to me over the years, but I just never got into it. The only thing that I got into that was similar to X-Files was Fringe. That was it.
Yeah.
Which is not bad, actually, if you guys are interested. You want something like similar.
Okay.
It's pretty decent, I would say. They actually, it's so much like X-Files that in the first episode of season 2 of Fringe, they are watching X-Files on TV in the background. So it's like a little nod. I mean, same studio, it's Fox as well.
Oh, okay.
So
Were either you watching Millennium? Since that was Chris Carr's second show after,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
or during, I should say, X-Files.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at one time or another,
What are
I
your
watched
thoughts on that?
any of the spinoffs.
I loved it. See, the first season is amazing. Season 2 got ruined tone wise because of Glenn Morgan and James Wong, and I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. It is night and day
More
difference.
supernatural.
Yeah.
More
And
like
it's more-
X-Files.
Yeah, and it's a little more light. Like the first season is very, very dark. and dreary.
Yeah.
I think Carter pitched it as the movie Seven set in
I knew,
Seattle.
yeah.
Yeah, it's raining all the time. It's dark. Yeah, it's
Yeah. I think at some point we should just do a show based on the spinoffs from the X-Files, like
We could.
Millennium and Lone Gunman and like anything else that kind of mimic that too. But so, okay, are you guys down though for like trying to do next week?
Yeah.
I guess we picked like the same time and just
Absolutely.
try to do 3, 4, and 5.
Mhm.
Like I said, there'll be a lot of shit to talk about in terms of episodes that are kind of my favorites of the whole thing on that. In the meantime, though, real quick, why the hell do these books look like fucking Goosebumps books?
That's what was selling back then, I guess. So
This was
So what's
1996.
in that
by the
book?
way.
Is it?
It's just like
Is there?
it's all just there's no pictures or anything. It's just like the actual I don't know if it's like-
episodes, right?
yeah, it's just the episode. So
Yeah.
like this one's says number
Okay.
9 EBE. This one
Okay,
says
just okay.
yeah, they're just individual episode books. Like
Oh,
Feared.
okay.
This is Squeeze.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're each one represents a different one. Like Humbug is this one,
Mm-hmm.
but
Okay.
they're kind of like what I imagine. What was that series called that was like that at the time, where they would just release like paperback novelizations of each episode that came out, but around the time of the show. So this was 96. This was probably about a year after that those episodes premiered. They were probably just doing the teleplays. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Alpha Romero. Pretty sure I got that book at the Scholastic Book Fair. That's what it looks like.
I never knew they did the individual ones. When I saw it back in like the 90s, I saw like the actual seasons all in one book. So I've never seen the individual ones. I didn't even know they did that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I was looking at these, and like I've had them since this is 95.
Okay.
And then some of them are 96. So I'm assuming like right around the time the episodes came out. Oh my God, check this out. This one came from Kmart and it was $2.96 when it came out.
Wow.
Jesus.
Wow.
Ah,
Back in the day, there used to be this thing called Kmart, people.
yeah.
There used to be a store that exists. And since Uncle Bill showed that, I found these, which is top
Oh yeah, these are great.
trading cards.
Nice.
And what's interesting is this is the first season. So not only do they have pictures, but they have artwork. So if you look at like the first episode, they have unique artwork for each one. So for example, if you go to like get it right, like Squeeze, this is him trying to squeeze into, but it's like painted artwork,
That's awesome.
but without the glare. Or like if well, Uncle Bill's favorite episode, I'll show this. Why not? There you go. Get some PTSD from Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And it goes on. I mean, there's the. I actually thought this looked cool. It's for the Ghost in the Machine one. I just like the look of that. I think that's a really cool looking design.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
That's
they just
awesome.
kept going with this. I don't know if they did the other seasons. Of course, they had to do one for the shittiest episode, Space episode. Like all of our balls.
Better than the episode that
Yeah, there's fire. But probably my favorite.
Cool.
You know, without the glare. But yeah, I just kept going with the. I don't know if they did the other seasons, but yeah, this is back to the day of Topps doing this, and yeah, pretty much they had that episodes. They even have, I guess, designs of early aliens. Like, I've never seen this one. That is a creature they'd ever used, I guess. 'Cause I've never seen one look like it looks like a vagina. So I'm glad they didn't use it. So
Yeah.
I mean, come on, photo. What does that look like? That looks like, you know, no wonder they didn't
it's
use
an
it.
alien.
Yeah.
And just like, this is the episode we were talking about ice. Like, this is definitely the thing right then and there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Sally, because of real life, a lot of those things back in the day were gone. I remember some of those books, at like Stuntman. I think I had one of those books that had all the episodes, and they'd be like a little bit of making of behind every episode. But yeah, sadly, just it's a long time, and but they made tons of stuff, video games, all sorts of merchandise.
Speaking
Like
of
we
which,
said at the beginning,
Do you like the
it was
video
a
game?
big. Yeah.
Okay, me too.
Which one? There was an FMV one for PlayStation 1, and there was a PlayStation 2 game.
The
It was like
PS2
Resident
one.
Evil.
Yeah,
It was
Resistor Surf, I
fine.
think is the name.
It was fine, but the voice acting, it felt like they were really bored. Like they're, hey, this is Mulder. I'm doing this thing here.
I mean, it's kind of how he
They did that
sounds,
for-
though, man.
Yeah.
It's just like
They just didn't give a
monotone.
fuck.
I was just happy
But
that
what
they
were you-
had the actual actors. Like they got everybody in from the show to do the voiceover work. And especially like the opening, I mean, it starts like an actual episode. Like when you play it, it feels like you're just playing a compilation of like unseen episodes, basically.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
What were you doing to say, Uncle Bill? You were matter of fact.
I was just thinking about the figures, man. You remember when I think it's when the movie came out. They released all of those, and I bought every damn one of them, and they ain't worth a dime now because they mass produced the shit out of those things. Like they were everywhere. And like you had the Mulder and the Scully one, of course, but then you had like the alien, like, you know, that was clear and kind of see through. And I've got all those somewhere, so eventually I'll find them and like bring them on the show. But yeah, they're not worth a dime. I could probably open them on here, and like it wouldn't matter. But
Matt, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, man.
I was just going to ask Matt, you were talking about some of the mythology stuff that you were confused about. What specifically? Was it just everything or just a handful of things?
I thought it made sense up to a point, but then it's been a while since because usually if I go by, I just watch the standalones. I just don't watch the mythology, so maybe I have to go back. But it felt like they kept shifting the goal where it seemed like, wasn't it like Mulder's sister was really important, but then they kind of forgot about that. And then instead we find out she got kidnapped and died somewhere else in one episode. Like she was, I know they explained, but it felt, I'd have to rewatch it. Yeah. It'd be one of those where like there was an alien, like you mentioned later on, where now we're dealing with God. And it's like, it felt like he was trying to do so much, and I don't know. I haven't seen them in so long. Maybe I have to rewatch them again, like in order.
Yeah.
But I felt like when it got to the end, they kind of just threw everything in the kitchen sink, and it just, I don't know. I guess more succinct and specific. Like even when you got the revival, like there was a date they had for when the end of the world, and obviously that didn't happen. And it's like, oh, Mulder don't believe in aliens anymore because Chris Carter grew up to be an idiot for some reason for this revival bullshit. This was in the past 5 years. They don't matter. People didn't watch that shit. Yeah, they did, and they were following what you want. You said, nah, they don't matter. We don't be very political and whatever the fuck. But that's the revival. We don't talk about that until we do talk about that. But maybe one day we will talk about that.
That's going to be a tough day, I think, for everybody to. I'm going to have to go back and watch that shit because I don't even think I made it through the whole season of when it came back. Like I think I may have made it through 2 or 3 episodes and then quit. So I have to go back and watch that whole thing.
Yeah,
but I think the answer to Stuntman's question, it was the way they ended it that just kind of hurt the build up. I mean, that's how you end it. And Cancer Man's her baby daddy, and it's not really their son, and then their son dead, but there's not dead, and then did they save the world? Did they do anything at the end? Like, to ask you, did they save the world at the end? Did they do anything? Did they do nothing at the end?
Technically, yes. Well, I mean, you find out that their son has like all these powers, and he's basically an X-Men, basically. Which there were some cool gore effects that came along with his abilities. I'll give him that. They use a lot of practical stuff. I could see how someone would be confused about the mythology. It isn't very, very clear. They're not like, this is this is that. Like where you have like in season 5, the alien rebels that come in and they're faceless, and their eye sockets are closed, their ear sockets are closed, their mouths shut. But it made sense. I mean, if you were really, really deep into it and you went on the internet and looked at everything, but some people would just call that convoluted because like it's not clear. You know what I mean? No, most people don't want to go that deep into it. They just want to be told what is happening. But those characters were against the recolonization, basically. That's why they were burning everybody up. They were burning up multiple abductees because they were trying to stop the invasion, and only because they were having an interplanetary war with the colonists. And they didn't want to be infected themselves. That's why the eyes were covered and the mouth was covered. So they couldn't be infected with the black oil virus.
I think with me, it was. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'll go into deep detail into mythology stuff in like when we get to season 3 and 4. And explain it very detailed for anybody in the chat who's confused or anything. If you guys got any questions, next episode. Yeah.
I think it was after the first movie. I understood it. That was like around season 6, 7. Like I get that. It was when like because the company didn't want to do anymore, then Gillian Anderson didn't want to do anymore, and then they had to change everything. They probably messed up a little bit of their plan. So I think it was after that where I got confused. It was a bit after like the first movie, and probably like after season 7 is when I got a bit confused with the old mythology. I would say that's probably around the time. But the first time I could deal with mythology wise.
Mm-hmm.
That I thought, okay, can you? I think it would have been better if they ended it with the first movie, like, and then start anew. But because that would make the movie more prominent. But that's just me.
Right.
All right. So CK wants me to plug a bunch of shit here before I go. Are you ready for this? So for those people that are watching, though, go over to shop.deadpit.com, and there's a 35% off sale right now. So you can buy a bunch of stuff that's really, really cheap. And I actually do think our shirt designs are probably the best designs out there. So check that out. And we have a Royal Rumble stream coming up next weekend. We're going to be talking about that. So can check that out as well. That's all up over on the YouTube page, or you can go to the Instagram page, Into the Dead Pit, or you can go, to the 5,000 other pages, Patreon page, things like that. So what have you guys got going on? Like I know Rambo's releasing he'll release 4 things tonight. So
same old, just doing the requests, uploading 3 a day, just to have them up there, because I don't trust YouTube, because YouTube a bunch of assholes, and I don't trust them with a sharp stick, a thin stick, a fat dick, anything. I don't trust YouTube with anything. They don't know how to do anything. But yeah, just uploading a bunch of stuff. I got some horror film I never heard of. It has a weird name, Skinamarink. Yeah. Have you guys heard of it?
Yeah.
I didn't know what that was. I thought it was like a Disney show or something. Like it's Skinamarink, but it's not. So
it's supposed to be god awful, man.
I was not into it,
but yeah, it's supposed to be really bad.
I look forward to those winning reviews. Not into it and boring shit, and so I look forward to that. And that's pretty much it. How about you, Stuntman?
I actually do have a review coming up. I'll be uploading it to my channel this weekend. It's on the 2018 movie. Doing it for the 5-year anniversary because nobody ever talks about this movie. Has anybody in the chat and you guys ever seen the movie Lords of Chaos?
No.
About the band, the Norwegian black metal band, Mayhem?
I know the band because they're infamous because of what they supposedly did with the
murders and stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I've never seen.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, it's
what did the band do?
No. So
okay, I mean, I guess I'll find it out. If you don't want to say, I do that.
Yeah. Movie Junkie John's seen it. Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were one of the innovators of Norwegian black metal. They claim like Satanism and all this stuff, and eventually a few of the band members like start to take it a little too far, where one of them actually does commit murder, and a couple of the band members die. One by suicide, one is murdered by another band member. It's just and they were, I think their most infamous thing was like them burning down churches. That was like the big thing that they were doing. And they were their last target before like the lead singer died, or I'm sorry, he wasn't the lead singer. I think he was like lead guitarist or something. He had a plan with the band member that killed him to burn down the biggest cathedral in Norway. It's this a really huge building. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah, it's a really interesting flick. Some really great makeup effects, great sound design. I think it's shot really well. It's made by Jonas Åkerlund, who did the movie Spun and a couple of other movies. It stars Rory Culkin and Jack Kilmer, who's really good in the movie. But yeah, it's really solid.
Yeah, I'd love to see that now that you mention it. Like, I had no idea that was what it was about.
Yeah, it's a pretty crazy story.
All right.
And where was the band from?
Norway, I think. Isn't that right?
Norway.
Yeah. Those damn Norwegians with the death metal, man, they're crazy. Like I mean, seriously, there's like 100 of those bands. I think it's like the capital for most like death metal bands or doom metal and things like that. Fucking Ouija's. All right. So until next Friday at 10 o'clock, man, I appreciate you all coming out. We will continue with X-Files season 3, 4, and 5. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Check us all out. I'm Uncle Bill. This is Rambo, and this is Mark, and we are out. See y'all.
Give us the thumbs up.
Up you butts.
Like, subscribe. And if you subscribe, here's something else you can do. Once you subscribe, you can click the bell notification, right? And it'll notify you anytime that Dead Pit puts up new shit.
Or don't. I really don't give a if you do.
I want you to. I want you to.
I don't care.
Let's keep our community growing here on YouTube.
I don't like it. I don't want you to do nothing.
Listen, they need to do that, pal.
No, don't you dare touch it.
Thumbs up. Subscribe. And click that bell.
Hey everyone, it's Oak Early Jaws. We got some great shirts for you. We got Faces of Death Part 2. We got Creepy Stories to Tell in Kentucky. The Colonel Would Approve. We also got DeadPit.com. We got Dead Pit Radio with the little fucking Dead Pit dude on there. We got It Never Ends, a Halloween spook parody of the new movie. We got It at Night. We got the Rat Pack, Uncle Rat himself. It just gets better and better. So go on and get you some shirts over at Team Public. It just gets better and better, boss.
Thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. Deadpit on Patreon.com is the only place to check out a complete archive of the old Dead Pit radio shows all the way back from 2005 on, in addition to the midweek shows and fan commentaries, exclusive podcasts, and much more. Dead Pit on Patreon.com if you're interested. Tiers start at only $1.